We're going to discuss in chapter 11 the replacement analysis here. A lot of time you have to decide to when you replace your equipment. Obviously, when you buy equipment at the beginning, you're not going to change it because your maintenance cost for the first few years is small. But when the equipment gets older and older, then the maintenance cost is going to go higher. So the question is, when is the best time to replace here? To explain here, I'm going to show you a diagram. And this axis is the equivalent uniform annual cost for maintaining the equipment. And this is the number of years. Now, there are two types of costs. One of them is called capital recovery, which maybe represent this curve. We call this one CR, capital recovery. So it means if you keep in equipment for 1 year, the cost is going to be this amount. If you keep in for 2 years, it's going to be that amount, and so forth. That's the annual cost associated with this. At the same time, so it means the longer you keep the equipment, the annual cost associated with the capital recovery is going to be smaller, get smaller. Now, the next thing is the annual operating costs. For first year, it's going to be the smallest, and then going to go higher. So it's going to be a curve like this one. We call it on AOC, the annual operating costs. So as you can see here, when your equipment is 1 year old, the cost is going to be lower, and then when you go 2 years, it's going to get higher and higher. So that's basically, we call it on the annual operating cost. This is capital recovery. If I combine these two curves, we're going to get total. So that's the total cost annually for keeping that equipment. Obviously, when you keep it for 1 year, it's going to be very high. Second year, you're going to get lower and lower. And then when you get this point, you're going to get the minimum cost here. And then after that, it's going to increase here. We call this one ESL, the economic service life. Some people call this one minimum cost life. So that's how we're going to find this minimum value here. Now the question, how are we going to find it here? So I'm going to write in general equation. If you're keeping the equipment for k number of years, this should be equal to minus, I'm trying to find the capital recovery first. The first curve is going to be equal to P times A given P, that's the initial cost, and K years, plus salvage value after K years times, you're trying to convert everything to annual costs, I and K. This component we call this on capital recovery, CR. Then we're going to add the second component, which is the annual operating cost, which is going to be summation of. So actually, J goes from 1 to K, the annual operating cost for year J times P given F, I, and J. The whole thing multiply A given F, I, and K here. And this component we call this on the annual operating costs. So this one is the first curve, and the second one is the annual operating cost curve. If I combine this, I get the total here. So we're trying to find the K value, which this cost is going to minimum. We call this on ESL, economic service life. And some people call this minimum cost life here. So that's basically the concept of replacement here. Now, in example number one, which we're going to discuss next, we're going to discuss how we're going to use this equation.